1st, 2016. A Trump tweet falsely saying, "I won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally."
We're going to launch an investigation to find out.
Fast forward to 2018. The same year, President Donald Trump's voter fraud task force disbanded without finding any evidence of widespread voter fraud.
In many places, like California, the same person votes many times. You probably heard about that. They always like to say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Not a conspiracy theory, folks. Millions and millions of people.
Then, leading up to the 2020 election, Trump laid the groundwork early.
The only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that.
The stage was set for Trump's big election lie.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
Soon after, prominent Republicans amplified the big lie.
We lose elections because they cheat us.
A Trumpian coalition formed by Women for America First crisscrossed the country in Trump-red buses, pushing out the big lie. And the Trump fantasy that the election was stolen permeated the minds of millions of Americans. According to a Reuters Ipsos poll from November 2020, 68% of Republicans said they were concerned that the election was rigged. But where is the proof? I asked Republican attorney Ben Ginsberg, who represented the Republican Party in elections for years.
Donald Trump continuing to repeat what he said about the election being fraudulent has given root to the lie that it somehow was fraudulent. And of course, the lack of any proof in any courtroom or any sort of public exposition has led to this really unfortunate situation.
What do you say to those who would say, well, just because there's no proof doesn't mean it didn't happen, that fraud can still exist even if you don't have the evidence of it?
In this election, Donald Trump had a 50,000 person poll watcher army, according to his own descriptions. So they had people in place to spot any fraud.
The 2020 election was unprecedented because of COVID-19. Republican and Democratic-led states across the country allowed more access to mail-in ballots to accommodate voters during the pandemic. Along with that came lawsuits over drop boxes, receipt deadlines, signature requirements, and curing ballots.
Republicans wanted to cut down the number of absentee ballots because they feared it would be a Democratic win, and they used fraud as their pretext. Democrats tried to put in a number of provisions in different states that they felt would give them an advantage on the grounds of allegedly making it easier to vote.
In total, Democrats and Republicans engaged in hundreds of state and federal lawsuits related to the 2020 election.
This was unprecedented. There was a general litigation bonanza in the 2020 cycle.
Trump made it known he thought more access to voting pushed by Democrats was bad for Republicans.
They had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again.
In the months leading up to November 3rd, election experts alerted the public that final results likely would be delayed because it would take longer to count the unprecedented number of mail-in ballots in battleground states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. They described a red mirage where Trump would likely be leading early with more Election Day voters, but then Biden would make up ground through the mail-in ballots favored by Democrats.
It's because states want to do their jobs in validating that every vote has been properly cast.
That inevitable delay would be weaponized by Trump and his allies to sow doubt.
We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually. And then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret.
Even before the election, White House officials said results should be known on election night, despite no legal basis for that.
What we want election night to look like is a system that's fair, a situation where we know who the president of the United States is on election night. That's how the system is supposed to work.
Questions were also raised about whether Trump would commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he lost.
The president will accept the results of a free and fair election.
But what constitutes a fair and free election, and who gets to decide that?
The ultimate decision that an election is free and fair comes in the certification of the vote totals by the state, which is what you saw this year on December 14th.
A source tells CNN right after that December 14th vote, pressure began to build on Vice President Pence to stop Biden's victory. And conspiracy theories tested the foundation of democracy like never before.
It's Looney Tunes, crazy town, man bites dog. I can't even equate every kind of cliche I can come up with to see how crazy they all are.